mind if we finish talking about Elizabeth Warren and Hillary Clinton?
Elizabeth Warren?
Yeah.
The golden age of Hollywood created an illusion so perfect, so dazzling, that audiences around the world believed they were watching gods and goddesses walk among mortals. These weren't just talented performers. They were icons of sophistication, refinement, and intelligence. Their every word scripted to perfection, their every gesture calculated to inspire awe. But what if I told you that behind the perfect lighting and rehearsed interviews, some of cinema's most beloved legends were hiding a shocking secret?
What has happened to you? That's how I feel about it.
Strip away the studio magic, the carefully crafted personas, and the army of handlers, and you'll discover a truth that Hollywood spent millions trying to hide. Some of their biggest stars, the very people who defined glamour and sophistication for entire generations, were stunningly lacking in basic intelligence and common sense. This isn't about being uneducated or lacking formal training. This is about something far more fundamental. We're talking about icons who couldn't locate continents on a map, who believed the sun and moon were the same celestial object, who signed away millions because they couldn't understand the difference between a one-time payment and ongoing royalties. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 13 beloved Hollywood legends whose intellectual limitations were carefully hidden from the public. From actors who couldn't remember basic plot points to stars who made catastrophic financial decisions based on the most elementary misunderstandings. These stories reveal the stunning gap between image and reality in the dream factory we call Hollywood. The first name on our list will break your heart because her voice could move the world to tears, even if her mind couldn't grasp why. Judy Garland, the voice of genius, the mind of a child. When Judy Garland sang Over the Rainbow, she transported millions to a place of pure emotion and longing. Her performances revealed extraordinary depth and sensitivity. Yet according to those who worked closely with her, Garland displayed shocking gaps in basic knowledge that left colleagues constantly baffled. Judy had extraordinary emotional intelligence when performing, explained a sound technician who worked on several of her films. But when cameras stopped rolling, she revealed shocking gaps in understanding. She once asked if Australia was in Europe, and she was completely serious. Signed to MGM at 13, Garland received minimal schooling on studio lots, where teachers were primarily concerned with fulfilling legal requirements rather than providing genuine education. The studio tutors were glorified babysitters, revealed a former MGM employee. Judy could barely write a coherent paragraph by the time she was a major star. During filming of Easter Parade, Garland reportedly asked director Charles Walters when Easter occurred. When told it was in spring, she appeared genuinely confused, asking why it wasn't in December with the other holidays. Perhaps most tragically, this gullibility made her easy prey for doctors who administered whatever pills they claimed would help her perform, contributing significantly to the addiction issues that ultimately claimed her life. The second revelation might shatter your childhood memories of swashbuckling adventure. Errol Flynn embodied dashing heroism in classics like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood. His characters outwitted villains and delivered sharp dialogue with ease. The reality reveals one of Hollywood's most startling disconnects between actor and role. Flynn was stunningly ignorant about almost everything, confided a script supervisor. He couldn't locate Europe on a map, despite being born in Tasmania and living in England before coming to Hollywood. Director Michael Curtis became notorious for simplifying Flynn's dialogue. Curtis would remove any words over 2 syllables, revealed a Warner Brothers writer, not because Flynn couldn't pronounce them, but because he often didn't understand what he was saying. Flynn's autobiography, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, was ghostwritten because he couldn't construct coherent paragraphs. Even more shocking, the man who played intelligent swashbucklers once reportedly asked a director if New York was in California. When corrected, he asked if California was in New York. The third name represents one of Hollywood's most handsome leading men whose looks couldn't hide his limitations. Tony Curtis built a remarkable career on his striking appearance and screen presence. Yet behind his sophisticated performances lurked shocking intellectual deficiencies that stunned even Hollywood's most forgiving insiders. Tony could memorize lines brilliantly, but often had no idea what they meant, revealed a director from the 1960s. He'd deliver complex dialogue perfectly, then turn to me and ask, "What did I just say?" Like a highly skilled parrot. During filming of the Vikings, Curtis reportedly asked Kirk Douglas if Vikings were real historical figures or fictional characters like dragons. Kirk thought Tony was joking, recalled a production assistant. When he realized Tony was serious, Douglas spent lunch breaks giving him basic history lessons. Curtis's financial decisions reflected similar limitations. Despite earning millions, he repeatedly made catastrophic investments based on minimal information. A business manager recalled, he once invested $50,000 in a scheme to import sand to Hawaii because someone at a party told him Hawaii was running out of beach sand. The fourth name might shock you because her image as the quintessential dumb blonde wasn't entirely an act. Jane Mansfield's public persona led many to assume her intellectual limitations were merely performance. The reality was far more complex and disturbing. Unlike many on our list, Mansfield had some formal education, but colleagues noted wildly inconsistent knowledge. Jane was the strangest combination of intelligence and ignorance I've ever encountered, confided a director. She could claim she spoke 5 languages and had an IQ of 163, then ask if the sun and moon were the same thing, just seen at different times of day. A makeup artist remembered, Jane once asked if drinking hydrogen peroxide would make her organs blonde. When I explained it would likely kill her, she seemed genuinely surprised and mentioned she'd drunk just a little bit the previous week. What complicated assessments was her deliberate amplification of the dumb blonde persona for publicity. The problem was that Jane lost track of the line between her public persona and actual self, explained a publicist. She'd make the exact same knowledge errors in private when there was no audience. The fifth name created one of cinema's most iconic characters while struggling with basic reasoning. Bela Lugosi brought aristocratic menace to Count Dracula, creating an unforgettable screen presence that suggested considerable intellect. The reality reveals a stark contrast between his sophisticated performance and his stunning limitations. Lugosi's difficulties went far beyond language barriers, explained a director from the 1940s. Even when concepts were translated into Hungarian, he struggled with basic reasoning. He couldn't follow simple plot developments unless they were explained like you might explain them to a child. A producer noted, "We once spent 3 hours trying to explain why his character couldn't appear in scenes after the character had died. He kept saying, 'But I am Dracula. Dracula cannot die,' mixing his real identity with the fictional character." Lugosi made catastrophic financial choices based on fundamental misunderstandings. His agent recalled, Bella signed away rights to his image for merchandising for a flat $1,000. When those products made millions, he couldn't understand why he wasn't receiving more money. The sixth revelation involves one of cinema's definitive tough guys. George Raft brought authentic credibility to Hollywood's gangster films, but behind his convincing portrayals lurked intellectual limitations that became legendary in Hollywood. George couldn't understand the scripts he was given, confided a Warner Brothers director. I don't mean he struggled with complex themes. He literally couldn't follow basic plot developments. We'd have to explain each scene immediately before filming. A screenwriter revealed George was functionally illiterate. He could recognize his character's name on the page and a few common words, but that was about it. His dialogue was read to him by assistants. Perhaps Raft's most famous intellectual misstep was rejecting the lead role in The Maltese Falcon, which went to Humphrey Bogart and became a classic. According to a Warner Brothers executive, George rejected it because he couldn't understand the plot. After 3 meetings trying to explain it to him, he just said, "This doesn't make any sense," and passed. The seventh name represents one of Hollywood's most glamorous sex symbols. Lana Turner rose from humble beginnings to become the quintessential platinum blonde goddess. Behind the carefully crafted image of sophistication, however, was a woman whose intellectual limitations repeatedly shocked colleagues. Lana couldn't grasp even basic concepts, revealed a frustrated director. We once spent an entire afternoon trying to explain to her why her character would be upset about her husband's infidelity. She kept asking, but why would she care what he does when she's not around? Turner's geographic knowledge was particularly limited. During production of The Postman Always Rings Twice, she reportedly asked if Acapulco was in Italy. When informed it was in Mexico, she asked if she could drive there from the set for weekend trips. Her business manager recalled her inability to understand basic financial concepts. Lana signed a contract for $5,000 per week and asked if she would be paid daily or if she had to wait until Friday. She couldn't grasp that per week meant the total amount. The eighth name spans one of Hollywood's longest careers, built on energy that masked intellectual struggles. Mickey Rooney's career spanned 9 decades, from child star to elder statesman. His energetic performances made him America's top box office draw. Yet behind his remarkable talent lay a mind that struggled with basic concepts and reality. Mickey lived in a perpetual fantasy world of his own creation, explained a director. He seemed genuinely unable to distinguish between facts and whatever version of reality he preferred to believe. Despite spending his entire life in entertainment, Rooney demonstrated shocking gaps in understanding how films were made. A production manager recalled, "Well into his 60s, Mickey still didn't understand that scenes were shot out of sequence. He'd become confused when we'd filmed the ending before the beginning." During a USO tour in the 1940s, Rooney reportedly asked if Germany and Japan were the same country since "we're fighting both of them." When a fellow performer attempted to explain World War II's basic alliances, Rooney insisted, "There must be only one enemy because it's too complicated otherwise." The ninth name projected sophisticated intelligence on screen while struggling with basic reasoning off camera. William Holden's characters possessed intelligence, insight, and emotional complexity in classics like Sunset Boulevard and Network. The contrast with his actual intellectual capabilities could hardly have been more stark. Bill could deliver the most literate, complex dialogue brilliantly, recalled a director. But after the camera stopped, he'd ask questions that revealed he hadn't understood the basic meaning of what he just performed. Director Billy Wilder developed strategies to help Holden grasp metaphors and subtext. A production assistant on Sunset Boulevard revealed Wilder would draw little cartoon explanations of scenes for Bill. For complex emotional moments, he'd use simple drawings with happy or sad faces. During filming of Network, Holden reportedly couldn't comprehend why his character would feel conflicted about his affair. Director Sidney Lumet finally explained it as, "She's bad, your wife is good, and you feel guilty," reducing the complex moral situation to terms Holden could process. The 10th name brought street-smart charm to the screen while struggling with basic knowledge. Joan Blondell's wisecracking characters suggested a sharp mind behind the blonde hair. According to Hollywood insiders, however, her actual intellectual capabilities stood in remarkable contrast to her screen persona. Joan could deliver rapid-fire dialogue that made her sound like the smartest person in the room, explained a Warner Brothers director. But between takes, she'd reveal shocking knowledge gaps. She once asked me if Abraham Lincoln was a real person or just made up for that president movie. A script supervisor recalled, Joan couldn't tell time on an analog clock. Well into her 40s, she'd ask people what time it was, rather than looking at the clock on the wall. Her mathematical abilities were particularly limited. Her business manager remembered, Joan couldn't make change for $1. She simply couldn't subtract 75 from 100. The 11th name embodied the muscle-bound stereotype perfectly. Victor Mature's imposing presence in biblical epics established him as Hollywood's quintessential strongman. According to colleagues, his intellectual capabilities matched the stereotype completely. Victor was the genuine article, a good-looking man with virtually no understanding of anything beyond the immediate and concrete, recalled a director. During Samson and Delilah, he asked if the Bible was based on a true story, and he was completely serious. His geographic knowledge was especially limited. A production coordinator remembered, Victor asked if Africa was a country or a city. When told it was a continent containing many countries, he seemed genuinely confused. What made Mature's case interesting was his self-awareness. When a critic accused him of wooden acting, Mature reportedly responded, I'm not an actor and I've got 64 pictures to prove it. The 12th name built a career on sexual sophistication while remaining remarkably naive about everything else. Mae West created a legendary persona based on sexual innuendo and provocative one-liners that suggested considerable intelligence. Behind this carefully crafted image was a woman whose knowledge was surprisingly limited and narrowly focused. Mae knew everything about one thing, sex appeal, and virtually nothing about anything else, confided a director. Ask her who the vice president was or where Europe was located, and she'd give you a blank stare, followed by a suggestive joke to change the subject. During production of My Little Chickadee, West reportedly asked if Chicago was east or west of California, and when told it was east, she asked if that meant it was near London. Her business manager recalled, "May understood I get this much money, but couldn't comprehend inflation, investments, or financial planning. She kept thousands in cash hidden in her apartment because she didn't trust or understand banks." The 13th and final name represents the ultimate irony in Hollywood's Hall of Intellectual Limitations. Montgomery Clift was renowned for his method acting and psychological depth, bringing unprecedented realism to his performances. Yet according to colleagues, this master of emotional complexity struggled with basic intellectual concepts that would challenge a child. Monty could portray the most sophisticated psychological states on camera, recalled a director who worked with him multiple times. But off camera, he'd ask questions that revealed shocking gaps in basic knowledge. Despite his reputation for intense preparation, Clift reportedly couldn't understand basic plot mechanics. A screenwriter remembered, during script discussions for A Place in the Sun, Monty couldn't grasp why his character's actions would lead to consequences. He needed cause and effect explained in the most elementary terms. What makes this list so fascinating isn't just the individual stories, but what they reveal about Hollywood's greatest magic trick. The studio system didn't just create stars. It created illusions so powerful that they convinced the world that beauty, talent, and intelligence were the same thing. These 13 legends prove that sometimes the most convincing performances happen when the cameras stop rolling. When an entire industry works together to hide the truth that some of our greatest stars were, quite simply, not very bright. But perhaps that's the most human thing about them after all.